Okay, so we are going to talk about two things very quickly. Number one, France being accused of mistreating African children who are there as asylum seekers. Yes, they've accused France of mistreating African kids, treating them bad. And this is from who? From the United Nations. Number two, we're going to go to Liberia and talk about something very, very crazy. And you better find out about this. Great stuff. What's up, everybody? I hope you're doing good. It's a beautiful day. Thank you very much for stopping by. You're very much appreciated. I'm sorry. I got a bit of a cough. Yeah, it's nasty. It's been like this for the past 3 days. And it's night over here, so I don't want to, make too much noise for the neighbors and stuff. It's a rich area, so we're trying not to make noise because these rich white people are gonna call the police. Yeah, I'm just kidding. Anyway, thank you very much. I appreciate you. My name is Zack. This is home, fellas. You want to know about the motherland, Africa? You are at the right place. Any country, you are at the right place. Let's get to this. France, here's France on the map. Now, the United Nations accuses France of serious violations. A lot of things happen under the radar, but this time around, they've put them out. They've accused France of serious violation. Which violation? France has committed serious systematic violation of the right of unaccompanied migrant children. So unaccompanied migrant children that go to France have been abused by the French community. How? Well, kids leave mostly Africa, going to Europe, hoping to get a better life. And sometimes they find themselves alone, because look at the map. You see this? This is the map of Africa. This is Morocco. In most cases where people cross, they will sometimes, take a boat or something very stupid like that and cross the Mediterranean Sea, hoping to get to Europe. Now, some of these kids get to Spain, some of them to Greece, but they find their way to France. Why? Because most of the people that are born in French-speaking African countries, their dream is to go to France. It's very sad. And also, Nigerians, Ugandans, Kenyans, all the African countries where the British were colonizers, they all want to go to London. It's crazy. I don't get it. Like, everybody want to go to see the colonizer. Everybody feels like you need to be to the colonizer's country. It's like they Mecca. It's crazy stuff. Now, anyway, let's get back on track. So, what is France being accused of? Okay, they found that many of these children are denied basic services like shelter, healthcare, and education because they cannot prove that they are underage. So, normally, as a country that accepts asylum seekers, when you have children coming to you, it is in your obligation to make sure those kids have shelter, schooling, and stuff like that. Very basic. Okay, now, they refuse to provide them with that. Why? Because they don't believe Africans are children. They believe Africans are lying. When they say, I'm a child, I'm whatever age, they say, no, we don't believe that. They want to do testing to make sure that your age is accurate. This is correct. And how do they want to do testing? We're going to find out now. Fellas, France uses bone test, okay, and interviews to determine an age. Bone test. They need to check your bones to make sure you're telling the truth. The question is, do they do the same, or would they do the same if somebody from Ireland decided to go and, stay in France they don't need to be asylum seekers, but would they do the same? For the black kids, they need to do bone tests to make sure they're not lying. You can't just believe what people are telling you, like, really? And obviously, these methods are criticized and unreliable and overly rigid. Very difficult on a child to do bone tests, and it's usually when the story doesn't necessarily add up, or there's lack of details like siblings, birth date, school, or history. If they just cannot put things together, they say you're lying. We're not going to give you protection. We're not going to give you food or shelter, so go in the street. So there are plenty of children that are African descent in street of France begging, even though France can do something for them. Obviously, this exposes them to danger. These kids face high risk of trafficking, abuse, and maltreatment. You find a little girl that's 12 years old in the street and somebody that's crazy in the head at 2 o'clock in the morning. What do you think he's going to do? It's very sad. And France feels like they're not children. And I know, fellas, you're probably asking yourself a question, like, that's France, that's somebody else's country. It's not for you to go to somebody else's country and say how you want to be treated. It's not for you to tell French people how to treat you. You should have stayed in your country. Well, sorry to say this, but France is a signatory of the United Nations, of the CRC, okay? The Convention of the Rights of the Child. France is a signatory of that. And when you're a signatory of that, you have to make sure when you have asylum seekers that are underage, you have to provide shelter, food, protection, schooling for them. How? Because you get funded for that. Yes. So the CRC, which is investigating France, states that every child, regardless of immigration status, has the rights to protection, education, healthcare, and shelter. And France is not respecting that when it comes to black children. They also say that states must apply a presumption of minority, meaning anyone claiming to be a child should be treated such as until proven otherwise. Well, that's not what happened in France. When you're black, they already think you're lying. When you're different race, then it's crazy stuff. Now, I don't know, should we blame France for this? Because a lot of Africans have gone to Europe to play soccer. They've lied about their age. You know what I mean? I'm just gonna be very fair. You know me. I'm always gonna tell you the truth. I'll never move to one direction. A lot of Africans, yes, for some of you that probably looking at me like, what am I talking about? Some Africans, when they want to get opportunities in sport, soccer, or any other activity that requires physical, strain, any other financial activity, they lie about the age. So the person could be 29 years old and just lie, say, I'm 17 years old or 20, you know what I mean? Or 20. They do that. Why? So they can have a longer career as a soccer player. There's I even know some guy that I used to box with. He called me big brother. I know his age, but I saw his age on the record international. I was like, whoa, dude, no. He was like -6 years. So it is known that many African people, when they go to Europe, especially for sport, they will reduce the age. Now, is this a reason why they will put everybody in the same basket? I don't think so. Is this perhaps a reason, an opportunity for them not to spend money on these children because they get money, they get paid? So what's going to happen now, if France continues to do it this way? Well, there's going to be damage to the reputation of France. Its credibility in managing humanitarian aid and child protection could be questioned. So France gets money for child protection and humanitarian aid. They're going to question that if it's treating African children in a way that is inappropriate. This is number two. It's going to potentially affect France's financing. France gets money. They get about 9.8 billion euros. That's almost $10 billion from 2021 to 2027. That's what's allocated to France. Okay, that's just from the European Union to take care of asylum seekers. Listen, most of these countries that say we don't want foreigners anymore, some of these countries have signed this document from the United Nations accepting asylum seekers. You think the country is just open to people and people are abusing your system. Well, maybe your country signed that and they receive funding and you don't know about it. France is one of those countries. Okay, they signed the CRC document, an agreement to look after refugees and asylum seekers. Okay, and many countries do the same. Now, they accept the money, but then when it comes to providing the service, they start acting weird. Okay, and number two, France in 2025 only has received 34 million euros. It was made available for them for projects, including those targeting, number one, age assessment procedure, to assess age of these children that come from Africa, that say, I'm a child, you need to do an investigation. There's money provided for that. Number two, it's for child protection, okay? The money is allocated for child protection. Number three, access to healthcare and education for migrant children. And France doesn't want to spend that money on children. Who's eating that money? Question mark. So now they're coming strong at them, they're going to have to react to this. Now, my other question is this one. Is this an incentive for black people to start running away from their countries and sending their children to cross the Mediterranean Sea? That's just insane. How do you allow your child to cross that water? I don't get it. Look, it costs you money to leave Senegal to cross that water and go to Europe. It costs money. It's not for free. You have to pay people to get you through that. Why can't you use that money to start a business in a corner? Why can't you sell things like bofrot? Bofrot is what you call maguinya or amaguinya in South Africa. It is called beignet in Central Africa. It is called mandazi in Kenya, I believe, or mandazi in Tanzania. It's the same thing. Why can't you sell those things and try to have a better life? What are the reasons why people trying to go to Europe? It's because they think life in Europe is much better. Well, that's not reality. That's not true. Look at France. Look at all these people. These are black people in France sleeping outside in tents. Life is not necessarily better. Now let's move to Liberia. Okay. Fellas, in Liberia, the Liberian Education Ministry has blocked a controversial plan to introduce mandatory drug testing at schools. So, an institution in Liberia wanted to introduce drug testing in schools. Drug testing, yes, drugs. Yeah, all of that. Why? Because children in Liberia are addicted to drugs. So, they want to introduce drug testing before you get into school. However, surprisingly, everybody's shocked to see that the education ministry has said, no, you are not testing those children. Isn't that a bit fishy? Okay, let's find out a little bit. Now, last year, the president, Joseph Boakai of Liberia, declared drug and substance abuse a national emergency.
The drug epidemic, especially the use of kush. The use of kush in our country is an existential threat, eating away the future of our children and the country. We must stand up.
National emergency. President says this is a national emergency. Dude, in Liberia, people like crazy. Okay? And, matter of fact, a recent report said that 1 out of 5 young kids in Liberia do drugs. It's crazy. Like everybody's like a zombie. And now a Liberian agency made a decision to start testing children, okay, before they go to school. It's like, how do you tackle drugs? One of the best ways to tackle drugs is if you do drugs, you're not going to school. Now you're going to have to decide between school or drugs. Okay, so in most cases, you're probably going to choose school. So this organization was about to start testing children at school. Then all of a sudden, okay, the Ministry of Education said, no, you're not testing anybody. Now people are saying, why? Because some people believe that politicians are making money out of these drugs. Now, how is the drug getting to Liberia? This is Liberia on the map. You see this? Because Liberia is a hotspot. But before we get to Liberia, I just want you to know a little things about Liberia. Liberia is the oldest Africa's republic. Yes, number one. Liberia was founded in 1847 by freed African-American slaves and is the oldest republic on the continent. Okay, so as you can see, that was the first republic in Africa, as white people call it. Number two, Liberia was never colonized. Okay, it's the only, besides Ethiopia, the only African state that were never formally colonized by European powers, because Liberia was a country where African Americans that were freed from slavery in the United States of America were sent to. Obviously, when they got to Liberia, they met some black people as well in Liberia that were local. Now, the African Americans that came from the United States back to Liberia had a little bit of a complex of superiority. You know, when you work for the master, unfortunately, black people always fight each other. I'm sorry to say it. Worked for the master for many years, got back to Africa, found a bunch of Africans, and they felt like, we live with the master. We're not going to mingle with you guys. We are superior to you. And the African American that were returnees, the freed slaves, created a society where they were only themselves as the elite, excluding the locals. So they had a big fight. They fought each other. Unfortunately, it was bad until later on they agreed and stuff like that. Let's continue. Liberia's capital is Monrovia. Okay, it is named after U.S. President James Monroe. This is James Monroe on the flag. He was U.S. number 5th president. And James Monroe was a strong supporter of the American Colonization Society. Okay, so this society was the society that wanted to resettle freed African American back to Africa. So he's one of the American president that wanted African Americans to go back to Africa and create their own country. His name is James Monroe, and the capital of Liberia is called Monrovia. was president in the US in 1817 to 1825. Now, what is the cause of the drug crisis in Liberia? Number one is because of the trauma of the Civil War. Okay, Liberia went through mayhem. People unalive each other bad. Okay, so during that time, many children were recruited into the army. Okay, and in order to help them do that easily, they were all drugged, and they got used to that. It became a trend of life. So people got used to that lifestyle. Number two, there's widespread unemployment. When people are not employed, you have two drugs. It's either intimacy or drugs or alcohol. So that's one of the reasons why people are. West Africa is increasingly used as a transit point, okay, for drugs coming from South America to Europe. It stops in West Africa in many points. Now, many people are suspecting that Liberia's government are very much involved. They're making money because people are using drugs in the country. Why are they not fighting the drugs? Who's eating out of this? You know what I'm saying? Now, why would the Ministry of Education refuse testing of the children? Because if you test the children, then they won't be doing drugs anymore. If they don't do drugs anymore, somebody's not making money anymore. You see what I'm saying? That's what it is, fellas, for today. France has been accused of mistreating black people, black kids, saying that they're old, they're not kids, they should be sleeping in the street, being in danger, have no food, which is not something they apply when other people, the Ukrainians, for instance, they didn't go through that. But black kids from Africa have been treated in the most not nice way. And these people are ready to really push hard to try to get the funding of France. All the billions they're getting, they shouldn't be getting it. I mean, if you signed the CRC paper, it means you've accepted refugees. So you shouldn't be complaining about refugees. Same as many people, many countries where you signed, your government is signed. You have to accept those people unless you're going to unsign. Liberia is on drugs. People are bad. It's a bad situation. And many people believe the government is involved. Because why doesn't the government just stop those kids from entering class if they are on drugs? Why do you allow them to do it? Does somebody want it to continue? Let me know how you feel about this. It was a great pleasure. God bless.